Elise's story. We want to welcome Dr. Margaret Alabi to the stage, and she is Director of Patient Advocacy for U.S. and Global Dermatology at Regeneron. Yes? Okay. She holds a Doctor of Pharmacy degree from Xavier or Xavier? Yeah, see? I mean, I had to have some fun with that. I mean, all the stuff I'm mispronouncing, I might as well keep it going. And she works tirelessly on behalf of people living with immune-modulated skin conditions. Also, we have Elise, who navigates life with courage and determination despite facing the challenges of Prurigo Nodularis. Yeah? Prurigo Nodularis, a skin condition characterized by intense itch. Her journey with this chronic condition has been marked by her perseverance and commitment to maintaining her quality of life. We also want to welcome Nick Taylor. Nick has more than 13 years of experience in advocacy, spanning the pharmaceutical and nonprofit sectors. He focuses his time working in areas regarding many skin conditions, including Prurigo Nodularis. Y'all gonna keep testing me, I love it. And currently at Sanofi, he leads the strategic vision, development, and execution of patient advocacy initiatives for dermatology in the U.S. Please put yourselves in the wonderful company of Dr. Alabi, Nick Taylor, and Elise. We're just going by Elise, no last name, just Salters. All right, thank you, Elise. Salters. All right, do your thing, bro.
Thank you for that fun introduction. A warm welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining our session today. This session is sponsored by Sanofi and Regeneron. Again, I'm Nick Taylor. I lead dermatology, public affairs, and patient advocacy at Sanofi, as mentioned. I don't know that we're going to be as fun as that workout. We will certainly try, or maybe you need the rest, and this will be that good opportunity. I'm going to be really quick. These are the stars of the show. I'm just really honored to kind of tee up our session today. We're going to uncover some of those layers to a condition that many of you may not have ever heard of. Some of you came by our table today, and we were able to chat about it. But profoundly affects the lives of many here in the US and globally, and that's Prurigo Nodularis, or PN, which we could have just done everyone a favor and started with that and then said it correctly up on stage. But particularly how PN impacts people of color. This chronic skin disorder is marked by the emergence of itchy, hard nodules that can cover vast areas of the skin, leading not only to physical discomfort, but also significant psychological distress. The itching itself is relentless, sometimes worsening at night, making it very hard for sufferers to find any relief. Beyond the physical manifestation of PN, PN is a condition that can isolate, stigmatize, and challenge those it touches in every way possible. And so without further ado, I'm gonna let Margaret and Elise talk to you a little bit about Elise's story, but thank you again, and we hope that you enjoy this session.
Thank you so much, Nick and Mr. Rucker, for that nice introduction. Our conversation today is not going to be about the clinical perspective of Prurigo Nodularis. We're actually going to be focusing on the heart and soul of the individuals who navigate this condition on a daily basis. This conversation is about empathy, support, and the collective effort to bring awareness and visibility to stories like Elise's. By sharing these experiences, we aim to build bridges of compassion and understanding for this condition, and hopefully create an encouraging and supportive community that recognizes the depth of the impact of Prurigo Nodularis on the lives of the persons that navigate this condition every single day. So let's embark on this journey together. We're going to go ahead and get started by hearing directly from Elise, who lives with Prurigo Nodularis and the reality of it every single day. So I've had the pleasure of getting to know Elise over the past couple of weeks. But Elise, can you introduce yourself to our family in the room? Let them know a little bit about you.
Just a few things. I'm originally from New Jersey, but I've been in South Carolina for the past 10 years, almost. In 2015, I became a licensed esthetician, so that's skincare. I was a waxer, if you're familiar with that. and But currently, I'm not in that field, so I'm just a personal care aide for an elderly friend of mine.
Yes, so, right? Not just, exactly. I like that encouragement from the crowd, not just, because providing elderly care is really important. And I think it's an interesting transition given your start as an esthetician into this space. So what we're going to talk about today really is just wanting to understand what were some of the thoughts and perhaps emotions that came up for you when you first recognized signs of Prurigo Nodularis.
So a few months before I moved out of New Jersey to South Carolina, that was back in 2014, the summer of 2014, I had what resembled a mosquito bite. So I did what I would normally do to treat a mosquito bite. You buy over-the-counter itch creams, maybe some rubbing alcohol if it's that bad, maybe some aloe. I did what I normally would do to treat a mosquito bite. But from that one bump, it eventually led and spread to more bumps forming. It just wasn't getting better. And eventually it spread down my arm, spread to the next arm, spread from my legs all the way up on my back. So it's all over my body. So I didn't receive my Prurigo Nodularis diagnosis until about 3 years later. So from 2014 till 2017, I was just searching for answers as to what is making me itch.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think that's really important because, again, like you said, it started off with just a mosquito bite, something that's innocuous. You're like, I know what this is. I can kind of get rid of this. And it turned into something that completely took over your body. Can you talk to us about how Prurigo Nodularis has affected your daily life, both physically and emotionally?
So every single day, my daily life is itching. I have to itch constantly. I'm not itching right now, thank goodness. But it is a relentless itch, and it's deep within me. So it's not just a normal little scratch. I have to really itch my skin. So every day, because I have nodules all over my skin, I have to choose to cover up my skin, wear long sleeves, no matter the weather. And since I'm in South Carolina, that's very difficult. Even, for example, going back to 2016, I was engaged to be married. So I had bumps all over my skin that I'm trying to cover up for what's supposed to be a beautiful time in my life, getting married. I had to buy body makeup to try and cover up what I could. I bought satin gloves that covered up half of my arms. So it worked, thank goodness for Photoshop, but it was a beautiful time, but extremely stressful time in my life and anxiety. And even to this day, like I said, I have to cover up every single day. So what I wear, I have to wear long sleeves because I don't want to show off my skin. I don't want to be seen as disgusting or people looking at me weird. So sun exposure is not the best for me. Even though I live in the South, I don't do normal activities that I used to do when I was younger. So that's just my daytime aggravation. Even with buying clothes, I have to make sure the texture of them does not aggravate my skin. If it sheds too much, I have to cover up if I decide to go to the beach, to the pool, I have to wear cover-ups, long pants. So it's just a daily struggle that I struggle with.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for sharing that part of your experience, Elise. And I think everyone in the crowd can agree with me that Elise is gorgeous. And it is such a blessing to be hearing your story. So yes, thank you. Because as you can imagine, it's not easy to sit here and talk about something that you weren't born with. And I think you're going to hit on that a little bit. This is something that has developed over time. And for Elise to be sitting here without having to scratch or, deal with the daily, impact of this condition, we're super grateful for your presence with us today. So I did want to make sure you heard that from us directly. Now you talked about how Prurigo Nodularis impacts you daily, and when you're outside and in the public space, how does it impact you at night? Like, what does nighttime look like for you?
So nighttime is probably the worst time for me. So it does honestly suck. While all skin conditions can be worse at night, mine is a little bit different. So I make sure I do shower before bed every single night, no matter what time it is. I'm showering before bed just to cleanse my skin. No matter what lotion or cream I put on, nothing stops me itching. So some lotions do soothe, some creams, whether it's oily, dermatologist tested, if it's natural, if it's scented, unscented, no matter what I put on, I'm gonna itch. So getting to sleep is a struggle, just being comfortable enough to get to sleep, where I feel like I don't have to itch right now. So I remember when this condition first started, I was using a brush, like a men's brush, to itch my skin.
And y'all know what kind of men's brush she's talking about. She's talking about that hardback wooden brush with those hard bristles to scratch. So like, it just to give you a visual of the impact of the condition.
Yeah, and I don't use that anymore because it did not satisfy my itch. So it's not hard enough for me. So to this day, I use a wide tooth comb to itch my skin. That's how deep I have to go. And it's not just a regular scratch, I'm itching my skin. And that's just to satisfy my itch. So sometimes, unfortunately, I do itch until I bleed, and it's very aggravating. So I have to keep Band-Aids next to my bed because I don't want to get it on. It's very stressful just to get to sleep because I love my sleep. I
can only imagine. And and I think, again, this is just another reason why we're having this conversation, because a lot of people might be experiencing what Elise is experiencing, but haven't been able to put a name to the condition, and might also feel ostracized from the general public because, again, if you're scratching to the point where you're itching or you're bleeding, people might not be as receptive to what's happening with you. And that leads to this next point, which PN is not really understood. So even from a clinical perspective, we are still trying to understand what this connection is between the skin, the nervous system, and the inflammatory system that creates these unwanted inflammation and nodules and bumps to occur. So when Elise is describing to you that she's using a comb to try to satisfy the itch, that part is associated with the nervous system, and that part of the condition, which is not easily easily abated by putting on those creams and things, which is more of the skin and that topical surface. So living with Prurigo Nodularis, I'm sure you have to navigate the healthcare system extensively. Can you share with all of us here in the room some of the challenges that you faced when seeking care and how you've advocated for yourself?
For me personally, I found it difficult to find a specialist, not only that was familiar with Prurigo Nodularis, but that could deal with a diagnosis like mine. So it could be very time intensive to deal with. I really had to find the dermatologist for me that worked for me. And that took so much time too, because like I said, from 2014 until 2017, I went to many different specialists, dermatologists, doctors, urgent cares, just trying to search for what in the world was making me itch. So it did take a long time.
It did, and I know when you and I were getting to know each other, you shared with me some misconceptions about peeing that were really heartbreaking. What are some of the misconceptions about peeing, especially as you're trying to navigate the healthcare system to get a diagnosis?
So some misconceptions, I remember when when it was very minimal on my arm and didn't spread to the rest of my body yet. The first dermatologist I went to probably took 2 minutes with me, literally 2 minutes. He looked at my skin and he told me I had scabies. And around that time I was about to go to school for aesthetics. So I was learning about skincare and different skin disorders. So I'm looking at him like, okay, well, you're the professional. So he diagnosed me a second time with scabies the second visit. Took the treatments, nothing was working, it's continued to spread. And the third visit, he told me I had dermatitis. So I'm like, okay, we're not getting anywhere. Took a little break, went to another dermatologist. He diagnosed me with keratosis pilaris, and that was getting nowhere. So I went to another dermatologist. They said I had eczema, just a form of eczema. I went to allergists to see is it something I'm putting on? Is it a lotion? Is it a cream? Is it soaps? Is it detergent? What is, just to see if there's something that I'm doing to myself. And it wasn't until June 2017 when I found a new dermatologist. The first time I visited her, she said, okay, let's do a biopsy. I'm looking at her like, the only time I likened that word, I was a little bit younger. I'm thinking, I don't have cancer or nothing. I don't need a biopsy. And she's like, no, it's just a skin sample. I'm like, oh, okay. Why didn't anybody else? Why didn't anybody else do this? We could have cut out 3 years of me searching and it spreading maybe. So she does a biopsy and it comes back as Prurigo Nodularis. I'm like, finally, I have a name I could put with my skin condition. So I felt a little relief, but then she tells me in that same visit, yeah, there's no cure for this. And there's nothing really out there to treat it. So I'm like, okay. So there are a lot of misconceptions about Prurigo Nodularis and how to deal with it, but these years have really been a toll on me, total.
Indeed. And again, I mean, you're studying skin, and then you're being told by your clinician that you have conditions that you can visibly assess for yourself are not the conditions that they're claiming that you have. What advice would you give to others as they are interacting with medical professionals? Because that is something that I think probably all of us have experienced, where you're like, I'm seeing this, but you're telling me opposite. How would you encourage us to engage with medical professionals?
With my journey, I would say, please do not give up. It could have been so easy for me to give up, just not being able to find answers. And don't be afraid to seek help from professionals. A lot of us don't like to go to the doctor. We don't want to find out something's wrong, when maybe we know something's wrong, but don't be scared to go to the doctor. I would say that.
Thank you for that encouragement. And I know we have some medical professionals in the room, so what would you encourage the medical community about?
Well, there are so many great doctors and specialists out there. I just want to say it's okay to do research. If you don't know something, you are the professional, so it's okay to do research. Come back to me. Let me know, help me out. If someone tells you their diagnosis, or tells you what's going on, somebody tells you their story, don't just brush it off. Listen to them and try to believe their story. Act like you care. I want to make sure we show care and bring back that bedside manner that we used to have, because it really does speak volume when you do that.
Indeed, especially with a condition like this, which is, again, how it presents may not necessarily be what it ultimately ends up as. And so we've talked a lot about your own personal experience with this condition, your experience with navigating the healthcare system. Let's shift to how PN has impacted some of your personal relationships and perhaps how you view yourself with others.
So my skin condition is one thing that I really hope others do not see as disgusting, just by looking at me. So one thing I always, just to put other people's mind at ease, I let them know it's not contagious. I wouldn't be out if it was contagious. And I have a husband, he doesn't have it. So it's nothing you can catch. And I remember when I was waxing people and as an esthetician, I remember just a couple instances where I had clients that kind of were uncomfortable with me touching them, and I had to reassure them. I had to reassure them I'm not contagious. I'm just here to treat you. But I can tell that they were uncomfortable. So with that, in this experience and having this skin condition, it really just reaffirmed as a human race that we really need to treat people how we want to be treated. Put yourself in my shoes if you can, and just try to treat people a little bit more kind. And overall, I always feel the need to explain myself. If I am wearing a sweater and it's 90 degrees outside, if I don't want to go out, or if I am just the way I am because of my skin, I always feel the need to explain myself. So this made me a little bit more sheltered. I don't want to go to the beach. I don't want to go to the pool. These are things I love. I've always done all my life. I've been to the beach twice in the past 10 years, and that's not normal for me. I don't want to go to the pool. I want to go to a cookout, maybe. So these are things that have just kept me a little bit more sheltered. I'm already an introvert, but I'm more of an introvert now. So the view of myself, I really had to examine just to keep my mind right. I think it would be different. I remember a coworker telling me, go on and just wear your skin, show your skin, wear what you want. And I was like, yeah, it would be easy if I was born like this. I would be used to it. But I know I wasn't born like this. I know the skin I used to have, so it's 10 years later, it's still difficult to get used to this skin that I know isn't me. So I really have to remind myself that it's okay. I have a man who loves me unconditionally.
His name is Colin, by the way, so big ups to Colin if you're watching. Thank you.
So I have to remind myself that it is okay, and I'm still beautiful, and I cannot let my skin define me.
Yes, let's give another round of applause for that. Absolutely. So that actually leads into my next question for you, and you always speak so eloquently. Every time I speak with you, Elise, I'm floored by your poise and by your ability to articulate in the simplest fashion how you're experiencing what you're experiencing, and yet still being able to show up. So again, I appreciate you for that. When you think about the mental health aspects of this, because mental health is a critical component of dealing with a chronic illness, and that's across the board. I think you heard that echoed by some of the other patients that we heard from today. When you think about how PN has impacted your mental well-being, what are some of the strategies that you found to be effective in maintaining a strong mental frame?
So while I do have support and help from my husband, my family, my friends, I still have to remind myself that I have to support myself mentally. So yeah, I'm gonna have days where I'm feeling low or depressed. I don't want to go out. I don't want to do anything. Two things do help to a certain extent. Knowing that I'm not alone in this skin condition, I found Facebook groups that I could chat with people that are just like me, that are probably dealing with it worse than me. The pictures that they post are incredible. But knowing that I'm not alone and that I have somebody walking in my shoes, it does help a little bit because I can talk with them. And secondly, just I try to look at the positive side of life. Like, okay, you can't show off your skin, or you don't want to show off your skin, but at least be grateful that I still have arms, I still have legs, because some people don't have the luxury of walking or using their limbs. So I try to think of it in the positive side like that, and it helps to a certain extent. It does, but then it's temporary.
Well, I mean, surely you've encouraged some people in the room with those mental strategies. I mean, even for those of us that are not living with PN, I think those are important mental strategies to adopt as we're making our way through this life. So throughout your journey, Elise, you've undoubtedly faced numerous challenges. When you think about one experience or one moment that stands out for you that is particularly empowering or inspiring for you throughout this journey, or where you felt like you were really encouraged by an achievement in regards to managing your condition, what would that be?
Another two things. I would say the first one is when I found the dermatologist for me. So it wasn't until I think I met her in 2018. The first visit to her, I had all my paperwork from my past, my diagnosis, all the medication I've been on, all the creams I've taken, so she won't give me that no more. It doesn't work. So when I found her, and she treated me like a person, she treated me like a patient. She spent time with me, more than 15 minutes she spent with me. She felt my skin, she looked at me, she treated me like she wanted to help me. So that was a moment of achievement, like, okay, I finally found somebody who's gonna be here for me that I could call my dermatologist. So that was a great stepping stone that I got over. And then a second instance is when I found by myself, just Googling stuff about Prurigo Nodularis, I found a clinical trial near me, and I was able to participate in that. Some people are skeptical of clinical trials. I definitely was, but the side effects were very minimal, and death wasn't on the list. So I said, okay, I'm gonna try this clinical trial and just see if it works. So I did it. It stopped my itching within 2 days. It is not out yet. I'm still waiting on it. But those two things, it just gave me hope, just finding a dermatologist for me and knowing that there are people out here researching and trying to come up with something to help the PN community, because we really do, there's nothing out there for us specifically.
Thank you for sharing that, and for sharing your experience with not only advocating for yourself, but searching for things that could help to relieve your condition, and being comfortable discussing that with your healthcare provider. That's really important. So what advice do you have for someone who suspects that they might have symptoms of PN?
I would say, as you've heard all day, advocate, advocate, advocate. Just know that what you're feeling does not make you crazy. We've had doctors on YouTube that have said to PN patients that I think it's all in your head. So when people say that, it makes you think you're a little crazy, but don't be ashamed to move on to the next doctor, because you're not crazy. You know what you're going through, the symptoms, what you're experiencing is not normal. So don't be afraid to switch dermatologists, doctors if you need to, and find the one for you that's gonna work for you. And on your first visit, unlike me, because I wasn't educated about it, just ask for a biopsy if you do have something on your skin that they can take a sample of, because that could cut out a whole lot of time that I didn't even know about. And lastly, just know that you are not alone in what you're going through. Support is always going to be available, whether it's family, friends, or Facebook group chats. Somebody's going to be there to support you.
Thank you so much for that, Elise. And we'd like to thank everyone who came out to hear Elise's story. We really appreciate you for listening in, and we hope that you're encouraged by everything that you've heard here today, not just the things that Elise shared, but also being able to take this information back to your homes, back to your communities, back to your places of worship, in an effort to, again, extend some empathy towards some folks who might not be aware of what they're experiencing, and showing that love and compassion to say, hey, you're a real person, you matter, you exist, and you are loved. And if you are experiencing these symptoms, give them Elise's recommendations. Again, thank you so very much.